Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants, and I'd like to welcome you to our Facebook Friday call. Today, we're going to be talking about a somewhat interesting experience I had not long ago, looking at some pyramids in Mexico. And it was interesting to me how sort of what I learned there mapped on to what I know about freelancing. And I got some sort of good insights as to what's going on. And it all started out as kind of a crazy, uh, road trip. I'm living in San Miguel, and a friend of mine says, "Hey, do you want to go out to the pyramids?" And I'm going to push a few buttons here and see if I can show you what the the pyramids are. And until I moved to Mexico in 2007, so what's that, about 13, 14 years ago, I didn't know much about pyramids. There are pyramids in the United States, a few, I guess, but they're all over Mexico. There's hundreds of pyramids all over Mexico. And so it's not uncommon to see, to want to go visit the pyramids. Many of them have been turned into um, sort of tourist attractions or preserved for future archaeology. A lot of them actually are like that. My share is not coming up here. Hold on one second. It looks like everything has frozen. Hmm. Hi, it's Winton Churchill. Sorry, we had a technical glitch. Everything froze, and here we are back again. This is an interesting trip that I took a while back to the pyramids in Mexico, and I felt like I learned a lot about freelancing from looking at this amazing archaeological fixture, really, in Mexico. And it's the most visited archaeological feature in Mexico. They get about 5 million visitors a year, except pandemic, not so much now. And so here's the opportunity to take a look at that and kind of, tap into what I was experiencing. So as I look at where this is located, and I had this pulled up here. Let's see. So I'm living in San Miguel, and a friend of mine who's a motion picture director, we're just kind of zooming up here to San Miguel de Allende, says, hey, do you want to go out and see the pyramids? I've got a couple friends in town from Hollywood. He's a movie director, so kind of a television producer, and an actress from a very popular show is in tow, and they want to see some of the sites. And when you look at the area of San Miguel, where I live, which is about 180 miles north of Mexico, you're going to see a pyramid sort of out here. And let me make sure you're seeing that. That's where everything went blue-hooey before. So we'll cross our fingers and hope it works this time. We'll go into share, and we're going to share the screen, and we're going to do that, and we're going to share a Chrome tab, and it's going to be this one. All right. So here we are looking at San Miguel. And for those of you who don't know, by way of orientation, San Miguel, this is sort of Mexico City, where the heart is. And then this is San Miguel. And this friend calls up and said, hey, I'm going to go with some friends. You want to go along with us? We're going to go out to the pyramid. And so I'm thinking they mean the pyramid that is right out here, right near San Miguel. And it's about a 45-minute drive. And, a quick go out. It was a Sunday, and I was on deadline for an article. So I had some things to do, and in the afternoon, and I thought, sure, it's a 45-minute drive out there. You spend about an hour and a half there walking around, getting a tour, and then you go back, and you're back in, maybe go have lunch, and then back at my desk by 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, we got in the car, and we're driving, and we're driving. And we're driving, and I know that it takes 45 minutes to get to this pyramid. And so we get out there to the pyramid, where I think the pyramid should be, and we keep driving. So I'm not wanting to embarrass my friend in front of his, let's see, there. Do we have it? The picture, Bob? Let's see. Of there it should be. Okay. And so we're driving and driving and driving. And about 3 hours into the drive, I say, where are we going? And I thought we were going to the pyramids. Aren't they just about 45 minutes outside San Miguel? And he said, no, we're going to the big pyramid, the Teotihuacan pyramid, which is just outside Mexico, which I'll show you on this this chart. So this is a 4-hour drive. So my day is blown. I planned the afternoon to finish an article that I was writing. And, one of the interesting experiences that I learned from this is I thought I was in for about a 4-hour road trip. And it turned out to be, I don't know, about 10 hours or something like that, because it was 4 hours down there. We spent a couple hours at the pyramid and then 4 hours back. So it was kind of a long day, but very fun, and because of the good company, we were having conversations, and time was flying by, and we were on the road. And at the point that I realized that I'm in a situation that I can't really control. I can't say turn around and go back. I've got work to do. We just kept going and had an amazing experience. So the first thing I kind of realized is that freelancing is kind of this way. Sometimes you get into a freelance assignment and you're not sure what it is, you're not sure where it's going, you're not sure if it's going to be a short one or a long one. And it was interesting in talking with these people. One was a television producer, one was an actress, is they were talking about how much their business was the same way, is that you can do, you might work in a bit part on a little series and all of a sudden you're a main character in that series and it goes on for 10 years, and that's what you're known for. And then other situations where you work on something that's a flop, but the people that you met on that move on to another project and they invite you to work on that project and it's a big success. And, you never quite know where these trips are going to take you. So a big part of my moving to Mexico and learning what it's like not to be plugged into all the things I was plugged into in the United States, and especially when I moved to Mexico, it was, you didn't get English speaking TV. YouTube for me for the first 5 years I was in Mexico was basically that buffering symbol. The networks weren't fast enough really to even do YouTube, so you didn't see a lot. So what I want to show you now, and I got to manipulate my StreamYard a little bit. We're going to move this. So we're doing this 5-hour drive down to Mexico City, and photo-wise, this is what it looks like coming up to Teotihuacan. This is the largest, as I mentioned. Let's see, we'll stop the screen and then we'll share it again. We'll go to share screen, tips, Chrome tab, photos. Okay, so when you come up to it, it's fairly modest looking. And this is, kind of the second thing I looked at. And all this area in the center of the screen has been excavated. It was really, you can see the rocks along the side and they've piled up rocks here. But when they discovered this in modern times, they thought it was just an open field with some rocks scattered around. And it wasn't till they dug under the open field to figure out the complexity of what was there. So this was a big, very interesting. I mean, you drive up, you don't see the pyramid anywhere. I'm thinking, well, where is this thing? And I know it's going to be fun, but where is it? And how big can it be? And if you see here on the right hand of the screen, you just walk over this way. And when you walk up in that direction, and I'm going to punch this up and show you basically what it looked like when I went over there. Let's see if we can get back to this, and we'll get to this, and we'll pop up here, and you come up to the top of that little rise there, and all of a sudden you see this massive structure and massive temples. And as I'm taking this picture to my back, there is this pyramid on the left that the top isn't even in, also shows the to my back, there's the pyramid of the moon. So this is the pyramid of the sun. It's the big one, but the one that's maybe 2/3 the size of this is the pyramid of the moon. And there's all kinds of different little structures in between all of this area. And it just flashed on me at that moment, is that this is really what freelancing is like for people that don't understand, particularly baby boomers. They don't understand the world of online freelancing. There's this massive organized structure with jobs flowing through it around the world. If you were looking at it just, 50 yards behind this, you'd think this is just an empty field with a bunch of rocks in it. But then when you come across the top and you see all the the interesting architecture and that kind of thing, and especially when you go with a guide and they figure out what all these little pieces and parts are and what these structures mean and what they did here and what they did there. And that's one of the big mysteries of Teotihuacan. They don't know who built it. To this day, they do not know which civilization built Teotihuacan, this massive complex. I mean, I can't think of any place I've been in the world where I have seen a complex that had this much volume and this much mass to it, and this much design and architecture, and everything's balanced and that kind of thing. I mean, you couldn't afford to build something like this in this day and age. So just a very interesting place there. For freelancers, for people that don't understand the world of online freelancing, they say, what could I possibly do? And there's just so much you could possibly do. But when you know how much somebody could do, it's hard to explain to them all at once. So it really does require sitting down with somebody that knows all about the freelancing pyramid to help you understand that. And that's one of the things that our coaches do, is they help people understand, how the pyramids work and which pyramid they should be working in, and that kind of thing. So very interesting to do that. So the other interesting thing, and this is a little bit like the, we're standing, people have been working as freelancers. The term freelancing, I think, comes from the Middle Ages. It's basically when somebody would hire a soldier who had a lance, a sword or an instrument like that, would be hired to work in an army, so that they're a freelancer. They go work for this guy to conquer this thing for a little while, and then they go work for that guy to conquer something else for a little while. So that's where the term freelancer originally came from. And it's so interesting that in many ways we are standing on hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, of evolution, of figuring out how to get things done and how to tap freelancers, how to bring in the local community, because in many cases that's how these pyramids were built, is that some king or queen rose to power, and over generations, really. I mean, it's estimated that this complex here took a couple hundred years to build, but it had a plan initially, and people were starting with a plan and working with a plan, and somebody was guiding this, and they had thousands of people that were doing things and redoing things, presumably, if something didn't turn out quite right. And so it really, we're kind of doing things the same way. It's generally believed that this area in the center at times would be like a market area, and there would be lots of stores and food places and all that kind of stuff, and places that sold clothing and made out of animal hides and that kind of stuff along this midway here. It's very similar to what we might consider an outdoor market today, or that kind of thing. But all the technology that has gone into this kind of structure, it has been morphed and changed to be what we have today in terms of these freelancing networks. And one of the challenges is we can't see inside the online freelance network because it's virtual, and unless you're really using it and down in it, you don't realize how vast and how abundant it is for opportunities to work on this. And as you go through the little tour area on this, and with a guide, they're talking about all the different people that, there were painters, there were masons, there were scribes that recorded shipments in and out, there was library that documented the construction, there were artists that made big panels to describe how it was built and who it was honoring and that kind of thing. And I mean, that's the graphic artist of the day. That's the online writer of the day. That's the person that does Excel spreadsheets of today. And it's just a fascinating, sort of non-virtual world. They talk about IRL, if you haven't heard that abbreviation, but it's in real life. This is the example of that. That giant pyramid is Upwork, but there's at this site to my back, there's half a dozen other pyramids that you can see there. So there's lots of different. Let me just flip over to some of those here. This is looking in the complete opposite direction, and there's all these little pyramid structure buildings and that kind of thing. And it's estimated that they all, number one, had a pyramid structure to them. Some of them have rooms inside them, and whole floors. And one of the things that Teotihuacan was famous for was they developed apartments, sort of that multi-level housing. So there's lots of these have housing for where people lived, and also housing where they went to learn things. And so just very similar to, if the big pyramid is Upwork, this one might be freelancer.com, and this one here might be guru.com, and this one over here might be justanswer.com. But these are still massive structures with massive things going on. And unfortunately today, we can't really figure that out. But if and I imagine that through excavation, this will ultimately, they will figure out a lot more of it. But because they estimate that today, as they're looking at this site, that there's only about 10% of the entire site has been excavated. They think that there's more sort of buried in the ground than there is shown at this particular area. Won't be as big as the pyramid to the sun, but lots of smaller structures that will give them much more insight as to what's going on. So just kind of a fascinating trip. Taught me a lesson about once you're in for the road trip, you really need to be in for the road trip. This whole experience stimulated a fascinating conversation, as we were talking about things on the way down, and after we'd all seen it on the way back, it was very inspirational to all of us. And it's just hard to stand in the structures that have been built and the massiveness and the idea that, somebody had to lay this whole thing out in their mind and then find enough people to help them build it, and figure out what are we going to trade for these people that are going to build this? We got to feed them, we got to house them. And that's what they did here. They created this multi-level housing, and really one of the very earliest parts of multi-level housing, apartments basically, and condominiums. Interesting that condominiums are still very popular to this day. And so what I'd like to do, let me just get back to the screen here, and we'll stop the screen and get back here. And now, because we had that technical problem, and I couldn't say hi to everybody. I'm happy to say hi to Randy, and good to see you here. And Bob Herb is there, presumably coming in from his place down south in Roatan. And I know that those of you that live outside the country have experienced this kind of thing. I mean, there's certainly places that I've gone back to in the U.S. now that I understand this architecture, the building of pyramids. And it turns out that the pyramid built just outside of San Miguel, which I did not show in this presentation, it's much smaller. But what they figured out is that there are 80 similar pyramids that begin in the state of Utah in the United States and go all the way down into South America. And so there are 80 of these places. And one person said that this was kind of the original Costco. This is where people went to stock up all up and down this line of pyramids, and they would find things that would people would come to a pyramid and they would trade goods, and then those people would go back to their pyramid and trade those goods. And it's a whole history that I didn't understand, a whole history of freelancing that I didn't understand. And it's interesting when it all sort of clicks in and say, my God, these people were freelancers. They were built on a freelance economy, and this is the physical organization that they had to have for this. And this is I know a little bit abstract, but that same organization and level of categorization and massiveness exist now that these networks are worldwide. And one of the saddest things I ever hear is somebody said, oh yeah, I tried that network and it really didn't work out for me. And the answer is that they didn't take the time to study it. And that's what made the difference in this. So of those of you that are listening, and of course, we'd like to welcome all those that listen after we record this. If you have a place that has inspired you like that, a place that you've run across just interesting in your travels, I'm certainly imagining, Bob, you might have a place like that, and Randy, same thing. And even if you're listening afterwards, I'd love to hear it, because I certainly go in and read and comment when you drop things in the chat. So just post in the chat a place that has been as inspiring to you in any way. It doesn't have to be to do anything to do with freelancing or that kind of thing. But it's just interesting how much the organization that you see that built these amazing and mysterious structures. I mean, they still have not figured out why Teotihuacan was empty for 1,000 years and who built it, who designed it. I mean, basically the Aztecs just moved in and took it over and said, hey, we got some great apartments here and a great place to party. And then they built up the whole place as well and converted buildings to different uses and pyramids and that kind of thing. So just encourage you as you think about your life and how different cultures do things, and how this world of commerce and how freelancing has been around so long, and how the structure of buildings and big parkways and educational areas and that kind of thing have all played a role in the world of freelancing. So with that, it's great to see everybody both here live and also in our playback. We're fortunate to get quite a large number of people watch the playback. So look forward to seeing you on our next call or seeing you at the next pyramid. Have a great week freelancing. Take care.